away from $300 a month average revenue per student, right? And
Right.
that equals that 300 and 300 would equal a $90,000 a month school, or put you a comfortable distance over $1 million a year. And then the question that Patrick was asking was, and in the statement, which I think is extremely funny, but it's accurate, is I was talking to some struggling martial arts school owners, telling them about some of the success stories on here, and nobody believed me. Now, how
Yeah.
often do we say that?
So
They think-
can I just explain that? So I'm
course.
not just talking about the USA. I've got friends in the UK, obviously, because that's where I'm originally from.
Oh, and they're way further behind than the US.
Yeah, Krav Maga schools, martial arts schools in the US as well. A lot of them struggling. I was like, look, you guys, you've got to join this program. I've only just started, but it seems incredible if if what these people are telling me are true. And this is what they're telling me. No one believed me without fail. I think I spoke to about 7 or 8 people in the course of about 2 weeks. They just wouldn't believe the numbers. They just was like, no martial arts school makes that much money.
Yeah, especially in the UK and in the US here, our group is a unicorn. It's a different. But you know what?
Well, but
It's like the 4-minute mile. Once one person hits it, then all of a sudden everybody's hitting it, and that's kind of what happened with our million. Now we have million is not the goal for everybody. Now it's the 1.5 million. It's the 2 million that our guys are shooting for. They've already surpassed that. So it's just being in the right group and be motivated with that. Everybody, the rising tide lifts all boats theory.
right.
Mr. Smith, I want to say just one more thing about that is that I think a good place to start for everybody that it has, besides the technique, besides the business technicalities, is that one is you have to believe that you can do it. And a lot of us, I have seen everybody, and in the years of these discussions, I have seen lots of people that they say, "Oh, my case is different because I do this. Oh, my case is different. I do judo. No, I do jiu-jitsu. Oh, I do kung fu. I do this. I do that. I do this." And everybody has their own BS why they cannot accomplish a goal, and that's the first thing that's got to go. The roadmap that these guys provide works. So simple.
A great quote, and I'm not going to give attribution because I don't remember it, to tell you the truth, but was most people would rather have a good excuse than good results.
Well, Dan Kennedy says that a lot.
Yeah, he does, but he's quoting somebody else when he says that. So I'm forgetting who the original source was. It's kind of like I say a lot of things that other people said before, but I try to remember who I stole it from. The rising tide lifts all boats. Nick Okinis used to state a lot, but he got it from JFK as rationalization for lowering tax rates during the JFK administration. But the rest of the sentence was, where I was going with that was, if a school is making $150,000 a month, then they would need to have 500 students at $300 a month. Have I misunderstood the numbers? Well, sort of. Because although that would work, because where Sebastian is at is more or less 300 students, more or less 300 a month, therefore within striking distance of $90,000 a month, it also works this way, is 300 students at an average of $400 a month is $120,000 a month, and 300 students at $500 a month on average is $150,000 a month, which therefore would be almost a $1.9 million a year school, right? And so the question, Patrick, is always this: what's the easier and better approach? Is it higher numbers of active students, or is it pushing the average revenue up, or what combination of those two factors is going to be ideal, right? And I'll tell you where my predisposition is, and I've run schools with, let's say conservatively pushing 700 active in 2,400 square feet before. That was probably the largest single one with 3,500, 4,000 among multi-locations. And I believe that 300 at 500 is easy. 300 people at 500 average revenue is easier, more profitable, and saner than 500, 600, 700 people at a lower average revenue per person. So I would flip it in the way that you're looking at that question. And if you look at current members, what you are finding is $300 a month for a new enrollment. For a trial enrollment, forget about with the renewals on top of it and so forth, is trending to be the norm, right? So 297 to 347 a month as the trial enrollment number. And so if it was true that your lowest price point is 347 a month, and you have to factor for the fact that you're going to have some students who are families and so forth. So, that's going to affect that average. But if a new enrollment was 347 to say 397, and then the renewal was 597 to say 697, now you're trending towards an average of 500 per active student. And the difference is, without getting too technical, is we are in a business that would be referred to as a step function. Once you break the 300 number plus or minus, you do need more square footage at some point. And if you already have 10,000 square feet, it's a non-issue. And if you have 2,200 square feet, at some point, it's going to be kind of a zoo. And our formula has been for years now, 7 square feet per active students, which means 2,100 square feet is just fine for 300 active. But I can tell you from personal experience, 2,400 square feet with 600 plus students was a zoo.
Is that mat space, Master Oliver?
Total square foot. In other words,
Including bathroom, showers.
That's what the way the landlord would do it, which is halfway between the drywall between your space and the space next door. So the space that you're leasing now, there is a factor, Patrick, obviously, of some people build elaborate dressing rooms and elaborate showers, and I've seen schools that have saunas and steam rooms and all that stuff. Well, none of that stuff helps you with managing the classroom size. So I would rather have it be maximized for floor space plus closing offices and intro room, and not have it wasted with separate spectator spaces, for instance. That goes along the side of the classroom, and have minimal, if any, changing areas. We've had schools that work just fine with 2 bathrooms, and you can change in the bathroom, and the kids are encouraged to come wearing their uniform, and the adults who are coming straight from school can, of course, bring their uniform and change. But again, the point of what Sebastian was saying, and then the point of your question is ultimately the simplest way to look at it is it comes down to those 2 factors, right? What's the average monthly revenue? What's the average lifetime revenue, which is a different number to look at, as compared to what the active count is. And it's certainly possible to run a school with, and we've had members before, Elite MMA in Houston. They were running about 850 active, but really what they had is they had 300 kids doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Separately, they had a big Muay Thai school, and they actually were running it more or less like they were separate schools, so that you could get the efficiency and so forth. But you still have a point at which you have to add more people, and you have a point at which you have to add more square footage, right? So, and Jason, when in answering that one, what he did do is walk through the conversation I was just having, which is as you push up the tuition per person, and Krista clearly is in an area where she's undercharging. Patrick, you're clearly in an area where you're undercharging. You can go through the list of everybody here. And what you will find is if you kind of boil down the success of most everybody, who are in our higher levels of revenue, it came down to first raising the price and improving the marketing results. And then it came down to retention, renewal, which I consider interchangeable, and staffing, right? So the first thing to fix is marketing and pricing. And the way you fix the pricing for many people is you've got to make sure well, first of all, you just got to ask, because that's most of the time you're just not asking. But then the second thing, you have to focus on the presentation of value and really building up the presentation of value, both during the enrollment process, but also do through the early stages of their enrollment. Patrick, does that answer that question?
Yeah,
well?
it does. It does. It's really, really helpful. The Facebook
Yeah.
groups become sort of a really important resource for me. Master, just very quick. How much would you be charging? I had this conversation with Jeff